extremely bullish on what is happening to Tesla, but also to SpaceX. Here's the TerraFab. We just covered it in the weekly brief. Go to pioneerlens.org for the weekly brief on AI, on capital markets and stocks, and on politics, where we cover everything that's happening in the age of AGI. That is important. And you know that SpaceX is probably the most exciting company on earth and beyond. This is just one example, but as you saw on the title of the video, I am a little skeptical about the very tactical future of the stock. And I want to talk today about what I observed last Thursday and why I believe we are hitting a hard wall at 135. You look back last week, my thumbnail on SpaceX was 135 and we are at 135. And I do think we have a little bit of a problem right here. And it's very important to be realistic, even if you're super bullish on the stock, what is happening here. And once you understand what is happening, I think it will be an eye-opener for everyone interested in this stock. So let's go right into what is happening here. Today, we have this very interesting behavior of the stock that continues the behavior of yesterday. And when we look at that stock, it looks a little bit inorganic. What is happening around here? For example, we started the day today at 139, very high. We ran up yesterday very steeply into the close. When you look at this here, this is August 10th. We ran into right here. What is that? 130, 135, 136. Dropped down yesterday. And then in the very end of the day, we ran up to 138. But then we opened today and it dropped down. I don't want to bore you too much with these stock movements, but it's very interesting to get to my larger point I want to make. You're seeing this thing selling off like crazy after the open from up here, then going back to 136, and then boom, you see this other sell-off. Then it hovers around here exactly at 134.64, and then it goes up to 134.91. Can you imagine that? And then boom, boom, it drops inorganically down like crazy. Boom, exactly at 12, by the way. And then it keeps doing this. It tries to go up, gets sold off again, and so on and so forth. My theory, and that will be very important. Listen closely why this is very important if you like to make some tactical trading money with a stock. Let's go back to Thursday. What happened on Thursday? I covered it live. It was the unlock of 900 million shares of SpaceX. Everyone was looking at that right after earnings last week. They will unlock these 900 million shares, and only much less than that, I think 500 million, 550 million or something were trading. That was the total free float of SpaceX shares. And then they unlocked an additional 900 million. So they unlocked roughly 150% of what was in the market. You're adding plus 150% more shares into the market, all of them creating selling pressure, because the only thing you can do with these shares in the beginning is selling them into the market. And so people were very concerned. That was something that held SpaceX stock back. And that's why it was so down. But on that Thursday last week, when we unlocked these 900 million additional shares, 150, 160% more than the float, nothing happened. And in fact, the stock went up 6% into the close. And that sent a huge signal. And I said on Thursday, you know what? I did some more research. I presented my research, qualitative research. Just 3 people who got interviewed who are shareholders who unlocked then. And all of them said, we are not selling a single share down here. We have seen that stock at 250, nearly 225. And we are not going to sell anything. Each of them said that individually. And some of them said, I want to sell shares because I don't want to be fully only invested in SpaceX. Many of them are employees, right? They have 99% of their net worth in SpaceX. They want to diversify. They have to diversify. They have to sell, but they all said, we are not selling a single share down here. And then they said something very important. They said we start to sell. We will need to diversify. We will need to sell some of these shares, even if they're the biggest believers in SpaceX. But the earliest we are going to do that, is back at IPO prices at 135. And from that, on Thursday, I said the following. On Thursday, my best bet here, and I took on the bet, by the way, I put on a nice little trade, not just little larger. I said this stock will run up, and it's on record. You can go back and watch it. I said it on Thursday. My best bet is this is going to run up to 135 and then hit a giant wall. Maybe not a giant wall, but a very significant selling wall. But I also said it will run up very quickly. I didn't know that quickly because it did that literally the next day, 133. And that is exactly my thesis. And I will quantify this thesis a little bit more. I do think what we heard about SpaceX on the earnings call was incredibly bullish, and the only reason we sold off after was because we ran up into earnings 10% the day before, and then we dropped 11% after. So it was basically nothing burger. The earnings were very, very good, but people were concerned about that Thursday unlock. Once it became clear we are not selling these shares, the stock ran up right into 135. And since then, exactly what I said would happen, did happen. We ran up against 135, even on Monday, right? And right at 135, sell off. We ran up again close, sell off. We were suppressed, couldn't get there. In the end of the day, last hour it ran up, and then right today, sell off. Run up against, sell off, run up against, sell off. And now we are trying to creep back up. And once we hit close to 135 tomorrow, guess what will happen? A sell-off. Why is that? If you have 500 something million shares and then you have 900 million coming online, there is a certain percentage. And now listen closely to my math. Totally speculative, but probably right. Of these 900 million shares, just as a gut feeling I have, most people of these 900 million shares, which is a massive amount of shares, given that you have a little bit over half of that floating before, I estimate that of these 900 million shares, roughly 20% are ready to be sold. Why 20%? Imagine you're an employee. Imagine you have a total net worth of 100,000 saved, maybe 50,000 saved. And now you're getting $1 million in SpaceX shares. What are you going to do? You're going to talk to a wealth advisor. They're probably connected through SpaceX. So you're asking your wealth advisor, you're an employee, you're a random employee. You have now 95% of your net worth or 90% of your net worth in a single share in SpaceX. You are telling your wealth advisor, what do you tell them? You tell them, well, I love SpaceX. I work here. I know the team. They're amazing. Your wealth advisor is going to tell you, well, it's fine to have a concentrated bet, but 90% of your net worth is not a concentrated bet. That's insane. Unless you're a Tesla bull and you have done your research. But if you're an employee of SpaceX, you're not really did your research, you just have that. And then the wealth advisor is going to say, sure, if you're so bullish on SpaceX and you want to really keep the stock, then sell off a certain share. The wealth advisor is probably going to say 50%, but if you're very bullish, you're going to say, I don't want to sell 50%, but at least 20, 25%. And so not everyone who holds shares who got unlocked is an employee. Some are strategic investors, maybe, but most of my employees, the investors, get unlocked later. And so my estimate is at least 20%, probably a little bit more, of these shares will be sold. Probably much more, but initially 20%, but they won't be sold under 135. And that means, in my mind, we are looking roughly at 200 million shares, 180 million to 200 million shares that are sitting here with a sales order, limit sales order for 135. Just to give you an estimate. Now, I can be wrong. It can be 100 million. It can be 300 million. But I think 200 million is actually, I think it's more than 100 million. I think it's less than 300 million. SpaceX shares that are sitting with a sell order, limit sell order in the market around 135 and probably exactly at 135 because it's the intuitive selling point, 135 IPO price. Because they've all seen it can go to 225. They don't want to sell below, but they want to get out. So now you know my thesis. What do I do with this thesis? Well, the first question is, how long is this wall gonna stand? And for that, I want you to direct your eyes down here. Average volume, of course, this is deceptive because Yahoo Finance is something different, doesn't matter. Calculations always different, what average of what, but 94 million a day. Today we are at 65 million. My estimate is, and these are very rough estimates, 20% of the volume, if we hit 135, or in days where we exceed or hover around 135, I would estimate roughly 20% of the volume are these kinds of sales. Okay, then you can do the math. If it's an average 80 million, let's say, you're selling 16 million shares. So basically, if nothing crazy happens and we don't see massive rises of volume and we don't see massive upwards pressure, we see upwards pressure, but not massive. I would say, 10 to 20 million a day are getting unloaded into the market, and you have 160 to 200 million waiting, which means, rough math, we have 10 days to go. So you see, this is why you're watching Joe's channel, because I'm not afraid to make very clear predictions and risk being wrong. But I don't think I'm going to be very wrong here. And it's all probabilistic. I think what you're looking at here is roughly 10 days of wall, 10 days of 135 wall. If we see any event, if we see anything happening with SpaceX, like an announcement of some crazy compute deal, of course that can shorten if you see the volume spike up. But you need to see the volume spike up, then it eats faster through that wall. So here's my big theory. And you see, by the way, I will go into the stock in a second. While we speak, it happens exactly as I say. But expect 10 days. We are 2 days in. We have 8 days to go. Okay? By end of this week, we will have eaten through roughly half of these shares. And then we go next week. And at the end of next week, we are probably ready to run again. And as we speak, look at this. Beautiful. I can't fake this, right? This is live tickers. You see the stock recovering again. It runs up again. I tell you, it will run up again against 135 and be rejected again based on the sales. You have the wall. Every time that happens, the wall gets lower and lower and lower. That's my prediction. It's not a hard prediction that it's exactly 10 days, but you know what I'm getting at. The probability we are breaking through 135 this week is very, very low. Okay, it's low. The probability we break through next week in the beginning of the week is low and then gets higher. The probability we break through it the week after is very high if we maintain upwards pressure. So that's what I think. Now, this is a total tactical, tactical stock video. It's very interesting. So what did I do? Of course, the smarty pants among you will say, I know what Joe did. He sold calls. He sold 135 strike calls, weeklies. And you would be right. But I'm not crazy. I know what happens if Elon steps out of his, wherever he is, Cybertruck, and goes on like, by the way, we signed $100 billion compute deal. Well, we burned through that in 1 second and then off to 160. So I do not like naked short calls on Tesla or SpaceX, because I'm fundamentally extremely bullish on these companies, and any moment something can happen like this and you get destroyed like a short. So I sold them, yes, but a tiny little amount. You know what I did also? Not a tiny amount. I sold short puts. Why is that? Because I believe what we are looking at here, yes, it is a wall you cannot break through easily at 135 of selling. But we have now also shown for the stock that no one sells below. And that means while we have a ceiling, we also have pressure from the bottom up. We have a lot of pressure in the stock to go up. And I like that. You have massive pressure, in my opinion, massive buying pressure against 135 and massive selling pressure against 135, which means we will pinpoint between 130 and 135 for a long time, maybe even between 132 and 135. And that means if I'm very bullish on a stock and know there is a ceiling, I rather sell short puts than short calls. So I have a tiny little short call position because I couldn't help myself, but a much bigger short put position at 135, by the way, and 130 and 128. I have more at 130 than at 135 because 135 is a little bit pushing it. I think I got $6 for that, or $5 expiring this Friday. So actually a lot. It's a little risky, but let's see. The 130s, I'm less concerned, and that's what I'm doing. I think we'll pinpoint here. And short puts is my choice as a strategic bull on this whole thing, because I think we will just bounce against 135 for 10 days, 8 more days, maybe 7, maybe 6, maybe 11, maybe 9, but not much more than that. And if the market doesn't crash, if nothing specific happens, after that, we will run a little higher. And then at some point, they will announce some crazy things, and we will go much higher. That is how I see it. And to conclude this tactical little stock session, I also do think, besides very positive catalysts like the compute deals, and our analysts are working very hard to bring something to you, especially on Pioneer Lands for the Citizen Plus members. We have a whole investment section now with a Tesla model coming up this week, and the SpaceX financial full model coming up next week. And we have a little summary briefs also what we think, and a specific brief on SpaceX compute, terrestrial compute build out. We know everything now. Everything. And Elon was exaggerating on some things for next year. But what is important to understand is what happens to the additional unlocks that are awaiting us. I will show you exactly what I mean. The additional unlocks, because now we know much more. And I told you guys that after this week, I would know much more. And I definitely know everything I need to know now. Everything. Here, look at this. Here we see the exact unlock schedule. And let's see how Q2 earnings trigger. So we have, what is this? This is so weird, 20%, 100. So all of these shares are unlocked, are locked. And then we will see, this is a weird, oh yeah, August 6th, we see this unlock here. And this 20% unlock, so weird. I don't even, this is not a very good picture. Maybe I see something better. Better unlock schedule here. What about this? Yeah, much better. So we have 4.9%, roughly 500 something million shares, or 5% of 13 billion. Can we do the math? That's 500 million plus, oh, it's 600 something million. It's 503, 650 million shares at IPO, 640 million shares at IPO, 900 million being added, going from 5% to 11.8%. That happened August 8th. Zoom in. The next unlock is August 20th. The next one is August 9th. And this is smaller increments, as you can see here. Here. And they unlock very systematically. Basically every 2 weeks, roughly every 2 weeks, there is an unlock. And then there is a very big unlock here, right? And then December, there's the last unlock for now, and then there's a long-term unlock, okay? So that's what we are looking at, and we now know what will happen. And what will happen is, as long as the stock is over 135, these unlocks will hurt us. And if we are not over 135, they will not hurt us. We also know, even if it is over 135, they won't hurt us a lot because they're much smaller unlocks than that. So just intuitively, I would say this is a 10-day wall of worry. 10 trading days, we will be stuck at 135. This year is much smaller. It's 3 trading days. We will go down. I think 3 trading days, we will go slightly down. Same here, same here, same here. So this is the pressure on the stock if we are over 135. Is that relevant? Probably not, but it's good to watch the unlock. And I would predict this time, you know how people are. They're not very smart sometimes. So they saw the August 8th unlock. Oh, they unlocked, nothing happened. Therefore, the next unlock, also nothing will happen. Well, I'm not so sure. I think if we are over 135, the next unlocks will lead to a stock drop. Not a massive drop, but a little bit of a drop. Actually to a drop, by the way, because if you're at 140 or 145, they will just sell into the market. Okay? If you're at 135, they won't sell. They will sell and then drops to 132 and then it goes up. But if you're at 145, they will just sell and goes to 140, 135, whatever. That is my expectation. And that, by the way, means that's worth a bet. I'm giving away all my little secrets here. I think at that stock unlock, if depending where we are at, it's probably worth doing a little game. You know, it's always dangerous because you don't know what Elon is releasing, but the odds that he releases something right that day is small. So the odds of a stock drop if we are over 140 is very high here. Nothing dramatic, but a little bit. And then here, here, here. So that's how I think about it. Under 135, no one is going to sell. Under 135, all these unlocks will lead to an increased wall of selling. At 135, where we bounce off, above 135, they will lead to a drop of the stock. Okay, that's how I think about these things. And we will see. Now, knowing these things is different from trading on these things. You have to be always cautious. But I'm just saying what I think is going to happen. Let's see where it is now. And the stock is trying to go back to 135 to get rejected. So let's go into the comments. This was a very tactical thing about the stock price. Let's see what the chat says. Hi, Bhakti community, and happy Tuesday to all of you. Akonda. Exactly. Hello, everyone. Hit the like button. I couldn't have said it better. Howdy from the SF Bay Area. The Texans are invading the SF Bay Area. Howdy. Street cred 0, the Texan Californian. Here. Joe, can you advise when the value of tears will hit SpaceX and or Tesla and we make some good buying opportunities? I think we are in the value of tears for Tesla and we are getting out of it as we speak. Here, Street Cred 0, a total pro, predicted exactly what I'm going to say. Yes, but I was a little more specific than that. Street Cred 0, I try to quantify the whole thing, and I'm putting on my own trades on this. Hotel Snob, who's Hotel Snob? Hotel Snob. If we all wear our SpaceX t-shirts, will that help? No. The market knows no mercy, and they are not going to stop selling because of our t-shirts. But SpaceX t-shirts make people happy, so that should be independent of that. Let's say 8, 9, take over the 6, 7 with a plump. I don't understand that. Joe's channel where he talks about channels, exactly. Since I bought SpaceX at 165, wife's bank penalized price, I've been selling short puts and 165 calls on SpaceX. Huh, did this work out for you? That's a little, was still too high. Is 6, 7 just hotness ratings because Gen Z is too wimpy to say what they mean? 6, 10 and 7, 10 is how they wimp out with criticisms. I'm not familiar with 6, 10 and 7, 10. Is that a new thing? I know 6, 7, even though no one knows what it means, but I need no help to talk to myself. What is this? Okay, here's the secret. Hotel Snob tells us 6, 7. Whatever, when they say 6, 7, kind of like mid or they aren't impressed, which is why I like to say the wrong numbers to annoy them. I feel 6-7 literally doesn't mean anything, and you can just use it, and it's a troll. It's not. I don't think it means they're not impressed. It just means 6-7. Hi Joe. Poxy, Frostbite. Do people really want down payments on mortgages and sport cars more than a stock that is obviously a once in a lifetime winner? I do think 135 per share is looking very fair, even if uncertain. Well, Poxy, Frostbite, I think the mistake is also what Alexander Mertz said. I disagree with this. You guys think too sophisticated, it's too complicated, right? These are not professional traders or investors who have a certain position in SpaceX, right? These are employees, a lot of them probably very responsible employees that are now rich, where 90% plus of their net worth is in SpaceX. And what is a usually smart, reasonable, normie employee gonna do in this situation when they got their first million, first 2 million, whatever it is? Even if they were wealthy and now have 10 million, if they're an executive, they're just gonna go to a wealth advisor. Their wives will tell them, dude, don't do stupid things. Go to a wealth advisor and make this a professional thing. And the wealth advisor is going to say, well, you need to diversify. It doesn't matter. You need to get out of some of that stuff. Buy Microsoft Max 7 index funds, whatever, bonds. I hope not. But whatever these wealth advisors tell people, they tell them buy Pioneer bonds. That would be very smart of them. Pioneer bonds. And that means there is automatic selling pressure. And then they're just going to tell their wealth advisor, no, I'm not going to sell under 135 under no circumstances. So TLW says, Joe, appreciate you keeping us posted of your strategies. Always liked your honesty, win or lose. Exactly. I'm exposing myself and my theories here because there's nowhere to hide if I'm wrong. But I don't care about that. I care about losing money when I'm wrong. So let's see. So do you think later this fall is when Wall Street and weak retail holders get negative on SpaceX? No, I am evolving in my thoughts because I have to evolve with the share price. SpaceX fell more than I thought. I'm now pretty much invested. I mean, at least short put invested. And I'm going to write that thing higher. And also our analysts, we have a very nice bunch of student analysts now, very smart student analysts in Pioneer Lands. And one, very smart one, is working on SpaceX and analyze the exact compute build out. And now we are formulating our own thesis and conviction on the exact numbers, what will happen to compute in 2026 and in 2027. We compute exactly, no pun intended, we compute exactly the compute EBIT and revenue and everything. And it's looking pretty good. And I think it will bring in very significant margins, and it will do so very, very soon, if not now. And that makes the stock a buy. But we are running against this 135 very tactically. So that is why I believe my previous theory that we are going to see the stock trending down all the way into December has already played out in an accelerated way. So we are not going to trend down. That's what I think. Because when I set these trends, no one can predict the exact timing, but we can predict the exact targets. The targets were definitely below 135, but we have now hit that bottom and bounced off, which is a price discovery exercise. That means the market believes this is too cheap. And that's what we needed to see. We also now know, as discussed before, how the market in a quantifiable way reacts to the unlocks and how the unlocks actually play out. So all in all, I think it is entry time for SpaceX. That's what I think right now. Let me take a look here. What's my Micron doing? Micron's pretty strong. Oh, wow, nice. Very nice. I'm also short put Micron. I think this horror show is over. I'm long NVIDIA. NVIDIA, oh, nicely recovering today. I'm also pretty long Tesla, by the way, fully in back again, because I think we are going to 360. And I'm very long on my short put 130 level, 135 level, 130 level SpaceX. So now you know if SpaceX drops to 120 and Tesla drops to 320 and Micron drops to 800, then you know I lost money. There you have it. Even though I raked very fast. But I do think they're all in a stable situation. I think Iran is over again. Let's not talk about Iran, but I think these risks. Some will sell, married ones probably, but the gamblers will hold. Married sounds like a Aschenbrenner. He just got married. Ken says, Joe, do you still think stock will go below 100 this fall? I'm not sure I ever said it will go below 100. I said it will go down and down and down. And I think it has bottomed now. And the odds that it goes below 100 are much lower than not. That's what I think. So I do not think it will go below 100. Here, Willie Hayes says, I'm holding SpaceX calls 140s and 150s. Well, depends when they expire. I don't like long options because of time decay. I don't like it. I like short options. I always like short puts more than long calls. Deli D. Vargas. Greetings, Joe. I'm concerned that higher institutional and lower retail ownership in Tesla would create friction and governance hurdles that would derail a merger with SpaceX. Your thoughts? No, I don't think so, because the merger will only happen if this is a done deal with the institutions. That's what I think. Some will sell. The married ones. I sold about 28% of my sizable Tesla position and bought SpaceX average 122. That would, yeah, probably not a bad move. I would say it's a neutral move because Tesla is also very cheap, but diversification into Tesla and SpaceX now is the time, in my opinion, even though Tesla is a little low. I was going to wait for 100, but with 100 billion in arriving end of year, I think 100 won't happen. What do you think? Exactly. So I think real redneck, it was smart to go into SpaceX. You know, you were smart to go into SpaceX. You were not smart selling Tesla at these prices. So you did something not smart and smart at the same time. That's exactly what you did. Is it net smart or net dumb? That is a very difficult question. I don't know. Was it net smart or net dumb? We will see. I think it's a neutral trade. You could be right or you could be wrong. But in general, diversification into SpaceX at these prices makes sense. These people will buy La Bus Bus and Pokemon cards instead of stocks that aren't just a fad. It's just nuts. Which people? Oh, the 6-7 people. Yeah, I mean, these poor little guys. Double catch next launch. Yes, I'm very bullish. You should see what Bailey Gifford paid for SpaceX. What did they pay? $1 or something? Probably. Hi, Joe. Are you still long-term bullish on Tesla? Yeah, I'm super bullish at these prices. I sold at 366 or whatever. Am I fully invested now again? Yeah, I'm definitely fully invested in the core position again. I entered around 325 or something. I'm very bullish on this thing now. Yes. I sold a boatload of covered calls on my new SpaceX position at 375 strike 30 days out. What? Wait, what? Real Ratneck? That can't be true. 375? That's crazy. Do you mean 175? 375? I don't understand. 375? You don't get any money for that. You probably mean 175. Space is also going to build oil platform launch towers, a new huge Louisiana launch site. Really? I didn't know that. That's crazy. Hey, Joe, do you know when Elon is getting the Vera Rubin GPUs? I think he already got them, some of them. I got FOIA records on the Colossus cluster showing when the buildings and required power are due. Elon may get the first gigawatt of Vera Rubin. He for sure has Vera Rubin already. You mean when do they get them at scale? I don't know. That's a secret NVIDIA question. But this year, I would say. Will Elon hit his 100 billion run rate this year? He might get close. I think not. I think it's lower than that, but it will be high. Poxy Frostbite, there's a collectible art tax of 28%. That means unless you're already making like 250,000 a year before any legit collectible business, you're doing it wrong. Very good. I think people will want in on the 100 billion revenue by December. Willie Hayes, I'm not putting too many price targets on that, but because you have to consider this is a very expensive thing still. So I would be cautious. You know, we don't know how the market reacts to this stuff nowadays with all this crazy low valuations. You know, so we have to be cautious. You have to have respect for price discovery. You can make all kinds of arguments for SpaceX where it should be. You need to be very neutral and observing how the market discovers the price. Because if you would tie SpaceX to Micron, it would be at 10. If you would tie it to NVIDIA, it would be at 40. So, you know, we are already pretty high. There's a lot of premium built in here. And I would totally observe the stock on its own and how it reacts. So then that is it's very hard to put on these kinds of price targets. Would you just DCA SpaceX over the next several months or just use puts to get paid to enter SpaceX? I don't use puts to enter SpaceX. I'm using short puts to make money on SpaceX. The way but this is my strategy. I wouldn't adapt this if you're not really into this kind of stuff. The way I view it is, let's assume you have 1,000 SpaceX shares versus 10 short puts, which is the same amount. If you sell 10 short puts per week and you're getting 4% on that. Okay, let me explain. If you sell 10 short puts at 130 each week and you get $4 for them and it doesn't go below 130, you made the equivalent of owning 1,000 of these shares and they go up $4 in average. That's how I view it. But you have the advantage that if it doesn't go up, you still get it. Only if it falls 4 against you, you don't get anything as you start losing. That's how I view it. Starlink revenue is solid and predictable, true, but not enough to justify this whole thing. Use 135 puts to enter SpaceX, then write 140 weekly calls on the shares. Sure, but if it goes up a lot, you are getting screwed. You're losing on the upside. You lose the upside. Falcon 9 system worth spun off into its own division. Not much. Nothing is worth anything compared to how much this company costs of the current business. Even Starlink has trouble catching up to this. So this is really about compute. I use long calls to write short calls, poor man's covered call strategy. Yeah, legitimate strategy. But all these call and all these option strategies are much more powerful when you have deep understanding of the stock movements, obviously. Do you think SpaceX will reach the revenues Elon mentioned? And also, did you hear about how Cloudflare anticipated 550x internet traffic in the foreseeable future? Because of agents. No, I think Elon always exaggerates and he never hits his targets. But that doesn't mean he's not directionally right. For example, our bull case for 2027 is 5 gigawatts. So the lowest end of what Elon mentioned, I think they can be very lucky if they get to 5 gigawatts, because it's not a build-out problem, it's an energy problem, and they can't trick that too much. So I think Elon's completely exaggerating with his 10 or 8 or whatever. But 5 would be enormous. It's enormous. We have a lot of like tricky little details that we will explain on pioneerlands.org in the investment research section, and also on YouTube a little bit once we're done, probably next week. On this whole exact compute build out, we have an exact model now that is very good in my opinion, very robust. 100 will happen if a rocket crashes. Obviously, if a rocket crashes, I'm not going to hold any short puts through rocket launches. No, thank you. It makes me skittish seeing retail delving into options market because the volatility it causes can break things. Yes, I mean, be cautious. Don't play around with margin. Don't play around with options. You can dabble and systematically test it and over time learn how to do it, but I mean, these things are extremely dangerous. Here, the problem with spreads to write calls is that high IV stock hurt to acquire the long calls for. Yes, I hate long options. I'm still waiting for a better entry into SpaceX. Too expensive, still in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, on a fundamental level, it's a little dangerous. You're right. In states, we can't do those in and out plays at retail because we pay taxes and all the profits, but can only write a loss of once. Ooh, I mean, it should just net out. You pay income taxes on this whole thing, but it nets out. But yeah, I don't have these problems because we have an institutional vehicle. And in Europe, even though we have American bondholders too. Yes, you're right. 175, sorry, typo. With lockup release coming, when should I slow down the selling of covered calls? You have seen, just go on X and look up for the lockouts. As long as these unlocks happen, you know, once we burn through the 135 selling wall, we are already close to August 20th, and then the next comes up. So I wouldn't be too concerned about your 175 30 days out. You just have to be cautious. You should be cautious when these walls are being removed, like burned through, and you see the stock trending up, and the next unlock is too far away because they can always announce these crazy compute deals, and it's hard for me to see how this goes to 175, to be honest, from here quickly. There is some gravity, no pun intended, right now in the market. So I think you should be safe, but just watch out for the selling walls and everything. Elon very famously takes the impossible and delivers late. Exactly. 10 gigawatts is definitely impossible next year. That's what I would commit to. So I think Elon is wrong on this. I just went into margin to get more Tesla. What do you think of Boomer Mama suggests a possible merger announcement? I mean, you can buy these super out of the money calls super short term if you want to buy into that. I thought about this, doesn't cost much, and then you lose it and no one cares. But if it really happens, you make a lot of money. So that's actually not a bad concept. But I don't think the merger is going to happen this year, to be honest. I mean, Tesla Boomer Mama is very convinced, but I'm not. Yes, exactly. Reason for diversification from Tesla to SpaceX has more to do with making sure I hedge against Tesla dilution should we not get a major premium on merger. It's very hard to see how we don't get a premium on the merger. Poxy Frostbite. People don't understand how far things had to go with Standard Oil and Bell Labs before they were divided by antitrust. It was because they were misbehaving, not because they were big. Yes. And under Trump, we are not going to get into trouble like that. Thank you. You're always so kind to answer our questions. Well, I'm trying, Sean Ixt. I'm trying my best. Just need a few days to clear the few that may sell in the one. Exactly. I think 10 days. 8 more days is my best bet. End of next week. Is Elon sandbagging Tesla? I think they're just rolling out a robotaxi and everything is on track, but it takes a little while. I don't think much is happening there that is a problem. I think people are just very negative right now with not really a lot of reasons, to be honest. I'm down over 200 shares of Tesla, but not much more. I'm not comfortable with options, so I only DCA. Options are for 100 shares, and that's almost half of my portfolio. I don't ever want to lose them. Yeah, that's wise. Could you expand on why you hate long options? Yes, I give you a mini theory on options. Let's do this. SpaceX. Let's do SpaceX for fun, not Tesla. SpaceX options chain Look, if you just very like no nonsense look at this stuff here, good SpaceX options chain. Let's just take an expiration a little more out, September 4th. Let me just explain why I hate it. Here's the option. So you see this. I can zoom in. Now, if you are bullish on that thing, okay, we're at 132 and we are out like 3 weeks from now. And what's your plan, right? If you're 3 weeks out, let's say you think SpaceX goes up, which I do. What is your plan? If you buy a call option, you pay $10 for 132 at the money. Let's say at the money, okay? Very simple. You buy a strike price of 132 at the money and you buy a long call option and you pay $10 as you see. Okay, $10. So what do you think is going to happen? What if in that time frame you were right and that thing goes up to 141 to 142, okay? It goes up from 132 to 142. What happens to your long call option? Nothing. You made no money. You made no money. Do you understand? If it goes from 132 $10 up and you paid $10 for the long call, you made literally no money. Okay, in order to make the same amount as you would have made with the shares, you need to go up twice as much. The shares have to go up 10 and you make $10. If you buy the long call options, the shares have to go to 152, twice as much, so you make the same amount as with shares. That's bad. Okay, it's very bad. Of course, you need more capital for the shares, but I'm just saying this is very bad. Okay, that's how you have to think about it. If you would buy the shares and it goes up $5 in that time frame, you made $5. If you buy the long call option, you lost $5, even though it moved into the right direction. That's my point. Now I make the counterpoint. What if you would sell short puts instead? I mean, don't do it, be cautious, but if you sell short puts, you are getting $9 for it. Well, maybe you go a little up, whatever. You make, roughly you're getting the same amount. You're getting $10. Let's make it simple. If you sell short puts, you're making $10. What does it mean? It means if the stock stays at 132 or goes up in any way, you're making $10 per share. That is a very good deal. Just probabilistically, it's a very good deal because now if the stock goes up $5, you make $10. If the stock goes up $10, you make $10. If the stock goes up $20, you make $10. If the stock goes down $5, you make $5. And that's why I love short options, because they work in your favor. You just have to be cautious. If the stock goes to zero, you lost infinite money. So that's the only risk. And that's why you should not randomly do it. But on a probabilistic and statistical level, short options are a golden ticket if you can manage the risk. Okay, that's my little options talk for today. But you know, you have to put the odds on your side. That's what you have to do. And not get killed when things go wrong. That's the hard part. Ooh, we have to wrap up in a second. Tesla will need AI fleet management software. This is to me the glue or key that unlocks scale. Yes. Well, they need FSD working. I think we have different definitions of long options. I was referring to leaps. I mean, that's a whole different story, because if you get a very good deal on leaps, that's a different story. But leaps are just the whole thing in long term. Leaps can be interesting because the market does not understand certain stocks, so it misprices leaps more. Okay, Willie Hayes. Not true. If an out of the money option goes in the money, it isn't linear. In the money, it's worth intrinsic value plus dollar. Yeah. Of course, if you have a huge move, then options can be good. But I just bought a long call last Friday when SpaceX was funding. It moved to 130 and I made $500 on one call in one day. It depends how much you bought it for. But yeah, if you catch very massive moves, of course you make money. So very good. So this was a little technical, but we have more coming up. Tomorrow we actually have a weekly brief update that is political. I'm going to talk about Tucker Carlson, because he actually published this 10-point plan for America, kind of. And that's very interesting. We have to also talk about a little bit about politics, because in the age of AGI, crazy things are happening. So we can't just talk about stocks. We need to watch out for what is happening all around us. And we will see what happened there, but it's an interesting thing that's happening. Where's Tesla bouncing to until we have a further sell-off? I think Tesla should logically run back to 360 very quickly. I think that's what it's gonna do, and then we see. Okay, last little look. Tesla is at 332. Market is closing in 5 minutes. Everything went according to plan today. Portfolio is in good shape. Well, June was tough. July was a little bit of pause. I'm still in a pause. We are still trying to get this live. I'm just trading privately. Weak close, but I would say this tries to bounce again against 135 tomorrow. Let's see how it goes. What did the market actually do today? Down, how much is it down? A little up. The MAX 7 sold off. VIX is down. Interesting, this is all down. Inflation data coming out tomorrow. I don't think much will happen. Very good. Okay, guys. I hope everyone had fun. Here, last news from Alec. Elon gets 380 megawatt South Korean turbines this year and one in 2027, plus 2 gigawatt behind the meter. Is that true? 2 gigawatt behind the meter? How do we know that? Alec? 300 megawatt existing substation capacity, 400 megawatt more coming in a 1.2 gigawatt plant by April 9th. Yes, no, wait. But the 1.2 gigawatt plant just replaces a lot of existing stuff. That's the deal. So you can't just add them up because they're replacing a 500 megawatts or something. It's not that simple. And 2 gigawatt behind the meter, is that so? I don't know. APR on his JV. Yeah, I heard about that. Let's see. Okie dokie. Thanks, everyone. And I see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye. Thanks, Alec, for the info.